Welcome back to the Random Horror Show. I am your host, Keisha Lacey. And thank you all for listening to this wonderful, spooky podcast called The Random Horror Show. Well, tonight's episode is one of those movies that I deliberately passed up because of the cover. And I felt that the title alone was just so stupid. And boy, did this movie prove me wrong. I am talking about 1990s Frankenhooker. And also, I'm giving a shout out to Lady Sha-Sha. You can follow her on Instagram. And also, she is the host of What Did I Watch? That is on YouTube. So give Lady Sha-Sha a shout out. Go follow her, like her. She has like great horror content. She is very cool and as all get up and everything. She does breakdowns and deep dives, especially in horror movies. But she literally like put me on that plug, and so I was like, you know what? Let me watch this because I do trust her. And she to say this right here, Frankenhooker is a great film. Now, what I love about Frankenhooker, it is loosely based on Frankenstein, the OG Frankenstein and everything. And I've always loved Frankenstein no matter what. He is in retirement, but he is coming back out, not particularly to say there is some circulation of some films that supposedly is going to have like Frankenstein in it, and it's just a reboot of all the Universal monsters, especially the OG of them all. Um, Also, that Mary Shelley is the one that wrote Frankenstein. And if y'all know the story, it was like a bit, Mary like, alright, I'm finna do this bit because she was married to Percy Shelley and she was good friends with Lord Byron, the tea back then, during the Gothic, times back in 17th century, Victorian times, that they was like in a throuple and stuff like that. Y'all better like be researching some of y'all authors and everything, which y'all be reading and stuff, especially the ones back in the day, because they did some crazy ass shit though. So that was the bet, and that's the reason why we have this very big time, science fiction horror, which I love. That's another subgenre of horror, is science fiction horror, you know, novel from this woman. And of course, women did not use their names to like publish their books because you know how the culture and the society back then. But alas, she wrote like the bomb ass book, which like opens the floodgates to a lot of women authors back then. And that's the reason why we have like some really great literature. I'm glad she was like a trailblazer from that. And if it wasn't for that bet for them to write the scariest story that they can think of, before like the night is over with, other than doing the hoochie coochie or whatever they were doing, drinking tea, being butt naked or something like that, we wouldn't have Frankenstein. But Frankenhooker, oh my gosh, y'all, I'm gonna be diving up in this and everything. You know how I am about me some good old movies and stuff, and I feel this one is a very good cult classic film which deals with Frankenstein, the loose base story of Frankenstein, and also showing a crack epidemic, and also with hookers. So let's go in and chop it up with Frankenhooker. So it opens up with this dude, I forgot his name, but they call him Jersey Boy. He is in a relationship with Elizabeth, and her last name is Shelley. Wink, wink to that right there. And he is doing some weird science stuff. He has a brain with an eyeball. So this is his dad. It's actually not his dad, but it's actually Elizabeth's father's birthday. So Elizabeth, on the other hand, she's kind of like plump, but you know, the person that's wearing like, she wasn't really wearing a fat suit. It was just like a lot of padding. It just looked really weird with that little weird 90s jumpsuit that she had on. It was like super crazy. But she's also a penthouse, you know, mate or whatever. I forgot her last name. I forgot her name and everything. But she was in penthouse, so she had to wear that little bulky whatever that is. It looked really stupid, but I was just like, okay, got the point. Anyways, she is showing off her, you know, her fiance's latest creation, which looks like an abomination of like a John Deere lawnmower. So she's pressing the buttons, and then all of a sudden it chops her ass up. So Jersey Boy is like all distraught. He feels so guilty. He's like super sad because his fiance got chopped up right in front of him. Mom, dad, even grandma seen this like horrible, horrible accident. But something is a little odd with Jersey Boy. Jersey Boy has this obsession of bringing back Elizabeth to life, but how is he going to do it? Aha. So he gets to working. This has been like a couple of months or whatever like that, you know, of him, you know, grieving over his dead fiance. His mom comes in, tries to give like old Jersey Boy some very, you know, mother to son, oh my gosh, you need to like get over it. There's a nice girl. He was like, I don't want to meet a nice girl. I just want Elizabeth. And she's like, well, you need to move on. She tried to do her best, but she didn't really do her best. She did her absolute worst, which made him much crazier. And of course, he lets his mom know, like, hey, I'm going fucking nuts because I lost my fiance. I lost the love of my life. So he's like doing this like sketches like on this female anatomy paper with all these like drawings and stuff, with like something that you would see if you like worked at a refinery, like where all the switches are at and stuff like that, like blueprints. But he was just like making all of these plans to like bring his girlfriend back to life, or fiance to be exact. So there was like this storm coming in 2 days, and so he's like, okay, I gotta think. So he takes out a drill and he drills in his head, and that's an old ancient Egyptian practice, that medical practice to be exact, because Jersey Boy is actually like a 3-time kicked out failed like medical student and everything. So I feel like I need to be in my like instructor voice for that, because I would have told Jersey Boy, like, look, you have been kicked out of 3 medical schools. What is your damage? Why are you not paying attention? You're not listening. You are not listening. You know, I do repeat that to my students. You're not listening. Are y'all remedial? That goes in my head sometimes and everything else, not to be like mean or whatever, but sometimes I'll be like, are y'all remedial? Are you slow? But anyways, so Jersey Boy like drills a hole to like relieve the pressure. Just like I said, that is something that they did in ancient Egyptian times with like medicine. Whenever somebody has a headache or a brain tumor, any type of malady that has to refer to the brain. And he feels so much better. So he gets this bright idea that he's got to go across the creek, to cross the bridge over to New York. So yay! So he makes a trip to New York, and he is met by a bottom bitch. And she's like, you want a date? You looking for a date? And her titty pops out. And mind you, there's a lot of titties in this movie. So if you're a titty man and everything else, this movie is for you. So he was like, whoa, nice breastises and everything else. So like he's cooking up this plan, like, yeah, I'm gonna get these prostitutes. Yes, this is it, you know what I'm saying? So she was like, hey, you wanna go use the bathroom? And he was like, I ain't gotta pee. She's like, come on, just use the bathroom with me. So she introduces Jersey Boy to this like sad dude that can't do damn business, pimp slash drug dealer, Zorro. Zorro's like this big motherfucker and everything, but he just looks wimpy as shit. So he strikes up a deal with Zorro, say like, hey, give me your best girls. I got money. I'm gonna have a real good time. So he's like all up in this trap house, like where Zorro deals a lot of drugs. He's like looking and he's like, damn, there's a lot of people smoking this crack. And he's like, what's that? And he was like, oh, that shit is crack. And so Zorro pulls his like baggie out, and that dude like had $3,000 of product, and he gives it to Jersey Boy for 20. I was like, Zorro, you suck as a drug dealer, okay? Because I would not sell that shit. I mean, he had like a whole bunch of like crack, but it's like made up crack and everything, because like it didn't cast like that. Crack is not really like super white. It's actually kind of like a dingy yellow and stuff. I didn't seen a rock before. Yeah, we call them rocks down here. Anyways, but everybody was living like a rock star, in that bathroom, getting toked up and everything on that good dirty dope. So Jersey Boy, he got the good dirty dope, and he gets back home, and he's like, what can I do with this crack? He's like, I gotta make super crack. So he makes super crack, because he's seen the girls that they're they're on drugs. If you know how pimpology is, you get your prostitutes, your hookers, your bottom bitches and shit, and you pipe them up with drugs, and they need that supply, so you supply with that, and you tell them to go out there and make money, and etc., etc. So that's what pimpology is. Don't ask me about that and everything and stuff. No, I was never a pimp, and no, I was never a prostitute. So he was like, yay, I'm gonna like pull out my like 11th grade like chemistry set, and I'm gonna make some super cracks. So he makes the super crack, and he tests the super crack on a guinea pig. Well, the guinea pig blows the hell up. He was like, oh wow, this super crack is really explosive. It really was explosive. So he goes back across the river, the bridge, to grandmother's house. We go, actually it was the trap house. And this is like where he has like his moment in time of getting all the girls. Since he had money, he pulled it out, maybe like a savings bond or something that his grandma gave him when he was 5. So he had like these bukus of money, and also some super crack. Which the super crack is going to play out a really big funny scene in this movie. He is measuring girls, their breasts, their legs, their cootie cats, their arms. Even if he sees like a tattoo, he just like, ugh, you know what I'm saying? He's like, oh, you ruined yourself with that big old brand that you got, that Z brand of Zorro, because, Zorro branded his girls to let everybody know, hey, don't fuck with my girls. They belong to me, Zorro. And they find the super crack. So bottom bitch was like, hey girls, here's some good ass super crack and everything else. He was like, no, don't smoke the super crack. He got her like all like concerned and like, I don't know, weird, and act like somebody's dad. They got like really high on the super crack, and they were making out, and then all of a sudden he just started busting out like, don't do that, you're nice girls, and that's not nice. And I'm like, bro, what are you talking about? I'm like, look at what you're doing. You're measuring girls of their body parts to add on to your dead fiance. You also did like a titty ratio, like nipple to like areola ratio. That shit was funny as hell, because he like touched that bitch. I was like, oh my god, I'm dead ass. And you just gonna tell them not to, you gonna tell them to stop making out? Like, oh brother, please, like, you're just the most boring ass dude. Like, go back to the suburbs. All of a sudden, one of them starts like, I don't feel good. She starts blowing up. So this is causing like a big quiet panic. And like I said, this is like the best part of the movie. They were like blowing up. I mean, Titties, coochie, legs, feet, eyeballs, everything. These girls are like blowing the hell up in this scene. And by the way, there is one of the girls of Zorro who is the name of Chartreuse, which is played by the adult film star Heather Keisha Hunter. I recognized them titties and everything, and I said, "Oh my God, it's Heather Hunter!" I got like super excited. She was actually like the first African American. I don't. Did I say that? That is so politically correct. That's so weird. But she was the first black woman that was in adult in entertainment industry that was mainstream. And like I used to work at a porn store, so I like recognized her because really when you work in places like that, you got to recognize the actors and the actresses and stuff. But yeah, I was like, oh my God, I recognize them good looking ass titties and shit. Like she's very very pretty, and plus she got my, plus we share the same name too, so like she's special as hell too. That's the reason why she was mainstream. Damn, Keisha's are awesome because she has Keisha in her middle name. That means you're awesome like that. But my titties is not as perfect as her, but I got the mom titties and everything, but they still look good though. But I'm just saying, she like blew up too, and I was like, oh no, I was like really sad that she like blew up. Like poor Chartreuse, like rest in love, Chartreuse. And Jersey Boy was like, oh wow, let me gather up all these body parts. Well, Bottom Bitch was the last person to like blow up, and her head thump, knocks out Zorro. So Zorro's like all knocked out and everything. He made a good old quick run with like the lady's body parts. So he got these body parts. He's like, yes, the storm has came in. Let me go put all these body parts on my love. He had like that Jeffrey Dahmer deep freezer of death. So he puts the rest of the unused ones, the ones that are like been messed up by the explosion, body parts of the dead ladies. And so he's like, yes, yes, awesome, awesome. But he used the arm of the bottom bitch to like sew on Elizabeth. So this is like really like a foreshadowing, and also which leads up to what's going to happen later on. So he jacks her ass up in the air. Total Frankenstein. It's alive. It's alive. The storm comes through. The electricity, or I'm going to say like Big Mama electricity. I was like, what is electricity? She's like, electricity. I'm like, it's electricity. Electricity. I'm like, never mind. Whatever. So electricity then shock-acuted her and reanimated her. But all that big surge of like power led to the Jeffrey Dahmer death, deep freezer with the other body parts. So you're going to see a little bit of some, basket case, like body horror with this, because the guy who directed this directed basket case. And he's like all happy and joyful because, yay, I put my girlfriend back together. We will be together. You know what I'm saying? He's like singing that damn Mariah Carey song, We Belong Together. And by the way, it is almost August, so around like close to September, Mariah Carey will be thawing out pretty soon. Usually to do Christmas songs like a little bit after Halloween. So Mariah Carey is still on ice, but I had to do that Mariah Carey song, We Belong Together. Boy, she like sung her ass off on that damn song though. That was a badass song. Let me go ahead and get some water. Where's my water? Who wasn't gonna be back there? Oh no. Who wasn't gonna take you? Oh no. Oh, baby, baby, we belong together. That lady can still sing her ass off. And Mariah Carey is from New York, so Mariah Carey be having that damn shade. I learn from the best, especially when they be asking Mariah Carey questions, and she's like, "Who is that? I don't know her." People be asking me questions about somebody such and such, and I don't like them. I'm like, who is that? I don't know who she or he is. That's exactly how I sound. I don't know who that person is. Who is she? Who is he? Yeah, I be throwing shade like a motherfucker. Mm. Let me get another swig. All right, continuing on with Frankenhooker. So Elizabeth wakes up and he's thinking like, oh wow, she's gonna greet me, she's gonna kiss me all over my body. You know, we're gonna touch my body. Oh my god, Mariah Carey is in my head now. Um, I mean, he is like having like these delusions of grandeur, like fantasies that they're gonna get married, and I'm just like, dude, she's fucking dead, but you reanimated her until she said, "You want to go out on a date? Do you got any money?" She started doing that, and he was like, "Wait, what happened?" It's because of the dead ladies, their body parts that has merged with her, and since like that big jolt of electricity have reanimated her, she's taking some of their memories before they exploded from the super crack, and she's mimicking them. She breaks free and she goes across the creek over back to the trap house where Zorro is at. So Zorro is like pretty hot at this time. His girls are gone. You know, this weirdo from like Jersey, this like suburbs, you know, with this dirty ass, you know, car looking like them crazies like off the Burbs and stuff. Y'all remember that movie, The Burbs? That badass movie right there. Y'all remember Hans? He be driving that damn car. Boy, that damn movie tickled me. But he had a car like Hans and stuff off of there. So Zorro was just so super pissed. And like she goes back and she rides the subway. I don't even know how she had money to get on the subway. I don't know. I guess because of her lovely appearance, you know, she just got in for free. And she finds a guy and she was like, "You want a date?" And he was like, "Hell yeah, you're a fine ass lady, won't you back that ass up?" So she takes him back. They have some explosive ass sex, but this is another funny part about this movie is that he blows up and she's holding his head and he says something like what an electrifying time or whatever like that. And it just tickles me to death because it has side effects. You gotta remember the side effects, okay? The side effects when you reanimated somebody from like pure electricity, pure energy, you know, information society with Mr. Spock's like, you know, voice bit, pure energy. So yeah, she's like shaka cueing these dudes and stuff. She gets the money and it was like this greasy, grimy, dusty ass dude in the hallway. He sees her. He try to mac on her. And she's like, okay, you know. Yeah, he ends up, his whole head ends up in the trash can. And Jersey Boy is like running around trying to find his fiancee, asking people stupid questions. Have you seen her? She's about this tall. She's blue. She's green. She's purple. She's actually kind of purple looking and everything. She got purple nipples and shit too, though. That shit tickled the hell out of me right there. Purple nipples. And by the way, like, fun fact about that, about her having purple nipples, they was trying to dye her pubic hair purple, but it's just like super messy. And they just like, you know, we just nix the whole, like, we just dye her vagina pubic hairs purple. We just do it with her nipples and stuff. You know, we're not going to have like one of those Wicked Witch of the West like situations like what happened to that lady on Wizard of Oz. You know, how her skin was like green from the makeup and she didn't recover very well. I know that was traumatic and painful because it was crazy that that green makeup stayed on her for a long time. That got to be like so horrible for her. Bless her heart. But they went with purple nipples. So he actually finds her. Okay, so she goes into a bar and he's still like looking all for her and everything before he finds her and stuff. It was just like this homeless dude, like the end is nigh, the end is nigh, and said something about purple, and he was like, purple went in there, and he was like, okay, thanks. But Zorro, he was like still upset, and his friend was just going and yammering on, about this fine ass chick that just walked into this bar. And the dude went over there. He's like, Zorro, I gotta check you out and everything. I gotta go. There's a fine ass lady up in there. So he goes over there where Elizabeth is at, and he decides he want to go nom, 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 on her like cootie cat, like up under the table, like a derelict, like just an old nasty dude. And I was just like, really, up under the table, man? But it was like so funny because her coochie was electrifying. It was shocking, and it killed him and everything. And it was so funny because his little legs like look like little Muppets and shit. Like whenever you see like anything like a movie with the Muppets and you see their legs and they're like flip flopping and flopping and like that with something was like going crazy. This is how his legs look. He was getting electrocuted. So he was like death by coochie. I know she shocked and killed him because he didn't know what the fuck he was doing down there. That's why he died. He didn't know what the fuck he was doing. She's like, I just electrocute his ass. I don't blame you one bit, girl. After he was electrocuted, and everybody just goes ham because they can't believe that somebody died eating somebody coochie bad. He dead. And Zora goes up to her and punches her in the head, and her hair flips off. Everybody's going crazy. So Jersey Boy finally finds her, of course, and he brings her home, and he sews her back up, and he tells all his little plans of how he did this step by step. Write that shit down. Take your tape recorder, for some notes. Take your phone out, record, take some pictures of how he did it. And you could tell on her face that she was supremely disappointed because she was like, I can't believe this selfish ass dude could not let me go, and I'm at peace, but he wants to have this bright ass idea of like bringing me back to life. And Zorro follows them whenever Jersey Boy picks her up from the bar to put her back together again like Humpty Dumpty. And Zorro's like, okay, this dude done some with my girls. He done hurt them. They're dead. So he comes in, he chopped like old Jeremy's head off. Like he Haitian and everything. And so Jeremy dead. Jeremy, Jersey Boy, he is dead after he done let Elizabeth know what he has done. And so from the girls, that was the mixed match body parts that was like really like damaged. That was like in the Jeffrey Dahmer like deep freezer. They heard Zorro's voice and they're like, oh, we're going to get Zorro back. And so they did. They killed Zorro. That was like really classic right there. So Elizabeth had the brightest idea. So she's like, okay, since he brought me back, I'm going to bring him back. And Jersey Boy's like, oh, wow, what happened? She's like, oh, Zorro just like chopped your head off and he got finished by his girls because your reanimated juice, jumped up in them and also electricity. So they got his butt, they ate his up like a refrigerator and everything else like that. Jeffrey Dahmer style. So he was like, oh, okay, cool. And he looks down. He was like, oh my God. And she's like, yeah, I'll put you back together again. So Jersey Boy had breastises. His body was a woman. And he was super upset. And she just looked at him and grinned. And he was like, why would you do this? She's like, oh, since you had all that juice, that female blood juice and everything that you have made to make me, that's the only thing that I had to use because, you did this to me, though I'm in pain, and you made me look like hell. She actually had a really nice body because, she had that padded stuff all over her in the beginning of the film. And this is what you get, motherfucker. And so she was very happy. And that's the end of the movie. So Frankenhooker actually points out that Elizabeth was really disappointed in her fiance because she thought her fiance was this very kind, caring person. But his misogyny came out of she seen the real him because he went down to find hookers and he felt that yes, my Elizabeth is important, but these hookers are not. So when he showed that side of him and he told her that how he did the whole process, she was like, all hail to the no, you a whole ass bitch. And you looked at these women just because they're prostitutes and they sell their bodies for sex. And of course, they love that super crack like that. You deemed them as low lives, scum of the earth. And, that you did this because you felt well, nobody doesn't care about them. Nobody doesn't, don't care to look after them. Well, only person that looked after them was their pimp Zorro. But Zorro's intentions was not to look for them because he's concerned about their safety. He was more concerned those are his money makers. But then I got to thinking about Zorro's situation and stuff, but he's just a poorly just a inadequate, just incompetent drug dealer as well as a pimp. So both of these guys was all about the misogynistic ass ways and shit. Zorro got killed by his girls because the way how he treated them, and they just wasn't going to take that shit even though they blew up by the super crack. And Elizabeth got back at her fiance because you showed me a different side, a real true side of you. I mean, even when you seen the conversation between his mother, how he just pretty much just kind of treated the whole conversation as an afterthought. Even though his mom was trying to help him out, he still dismissed her. And even when he had the whole little candlelight dinner with Elizabeth's head and he's pouring wine down her throat, is going all over the table, and the pizza that he had, and he had these punk ass hopes and dreams of putting her back together again like Humpty Dumpty and shit like that, and they was just gonna live in their mom's house forever. I mean, he was a total fucking loser. I mean, come on, he's a failed 3-year medical student. Get it? He was just a total loser, all the way. You seen how he looked at Elizabeth? He loved the idea of Elizabeth, but he didn't know the real Elizabeth as a woman and as a human being. Because if you paid attention in the beginning of the movie, he was pretty dismissive towards her. He's just oh, I love you, but my science is more important, my job is more important. She's just some girl that I'm gonna marry and everything, I'm gonna pump her up with some babies, blah blah blah. He just didn't look at Elizabeth as a human being. And when she was reanimated, it actually, I wouldn't say it gave her a brain, but it was actually her just materializing what was really going on. And she did not see, she seen the red flags, and maybe she did, maybe she was very naive, but when she was reanimated as Frankenhooker, she seen all his red flags. She seen a lot of toxicity in him. She was just yo, fuck this dude right here. I'm gonna give him a taste of his medicine. And that's what happened. So I was tripping the hell out on that right there. Zorro's case, he just sucked. He thought that him being a pimp and him being like a very uh, just incompetent drug dealer. He thought he was just a shit, but he really wasn't. So you see that Jersey Boy and Zorro, even though one is a drug dealer dealing with like illegal stuff, and while you have Jersey Boy, who is a failed medical student 3 times, but he also has a job like at the electric company. um they were both in that same fucking boat and everything. They were both fucking losers. And it's the women, they just realized, like, man, these dudes are trash. That's what they just how they live. Like, dude, these dudes are trash. It really was. But it was like a really fun film, and it's nothing to be like taken like super seriously. It is dark, just dark humor. You got your science fiction feel for it with the horror. You got the great laughs with it because it was really meant to be like a comedy, but it was just like more than a comedy. It was just a lot of things about it that like it was really enjoyable. And suffice to say, this is like one of the films that is added to my horror list because of the Mary Shelley Frankenstein loose base story. Um, it talks about like hookers that they even like made like it wasn't making a big joke out of crack, but it like shows like how people act when they on crack. And trust me, I've seen a lot of crackheads in my day. Um, they're they're funny as hell, I tell you that, but it's really sad, especially whenever you have addiction problems, and it really tears the family, it tears relationships up and things like that. And I have to experience that in my life. That was a very dark, dark time, especially with my mother. That has happened to her. She's been, she passed away over 20 something years ago. And it was some funny shit she said too. I was just like, oh my gosh, it was hilarious, but sad to say, drug addiction, is what killed her. And I miss her so dearly. But also, like, the point of like prostitutes in this movie, I think they were very beautiful. One of them was like bumping her titties up, and I was like moving my pectoral muscles. I could still do that with my titties and everything. And it was just too funny and stuff. This is a really like a gas of a movie, and you would just enjoy it so much. So would I rate it? Man, I like rate this Summer Gun like a 7.5. It's just like really, it can be very campy, but it's just the darkness of it, and it just so twisted, like how one guy was just so selfish of losing his girlfriend, his fiance, in an accident. Instead of just letting it go and just grieving and healing from the process, he went out and destroyed other women's lives that's supposed to be deemed like scum of the earth because they're sex workers and they're drug addicts. And so, like, who is the big loser in this film? Zorro and Jersey Boy. But that is enough of my time. Thank you so much for joining me with this hellified, awesome ass movie of Frankenhooker. Please do watch it. It is on Prime. It is on Tubi. You will have nothing but some damn laughs, shit, smoke a joint, not crack with this. It is like such a funny film. I'm glad I enjoyed it, and it just took me some coaxing to watch this film. Also, you can catch me on Instagram at The Random Horror Show. Threads, if you have not downloaded Threads, that is the less toxic Twitter that is going on from the metaverse. I'm on there too. And if you want to drop me some lines, in my Gmail is at therandomhorrorshow@gmail.com. If you are a content creator or anybody in the horror community, it does not matter if you are a actor, actress, writer, whatever that you do, artist, anything. And if you will love to be on a spot as a guest on the Random Horror Show, do drop me those lines. All right then, gang. Y'all have a wonderful, spooky, spooky, awesome night. And remember, if you're anybody that passes away and everything, don't be sitting up there be trying to get prostitutes chopping up their bodies and everything. You're not Jeffrey Dahmer and you're not a damn scientist, okay? Leave them shits alone. Leave it be. Let the motherfuckers be at peace and everything. Peace. I'm out. I'm Keisha Lacey, and this is the Random Horror Show.